The most dangerous place to buy a medical breakthrough is not in the laboratory. It is after the crowd has already decided the miracle is guaranteed. That is what I want you to remember. Before we talk about psychedelic-assisted therapy, depression drugs, priority vouchers, Johnson & Johnson, Compass Pathways, AtaiBeckley, or GH Research, a breakthrough can be real and still make investors lose money. A patient need can be enormous and still not become a profitable product. A stock can fall 80% and still be too expensive if the company never reaches approval. A drug can win approval and still fail commercially if doctors, insurers, clinics, and patients do not adopt it. The public likes the word breakthrough. Investors should prefer the word cash flow. That is the regulatory gate for nearly every serious biotechnology opportunity. There is a gate between promise and wealth. On one side of the gate, you have science trials, excitement, press releases, patient need, investor imagination, and large total addressable market estimates. On the other side, you have approval, reimbursement, manufacturing, physician adoption, safety monitoring, commercial execution, pricing, patent defense, and actual revenue. Most people get excited on the first side. Money is made on the second side. That does not mean you ignore the first side. Early opportunities often exist before the cash flow appears. But if you invest on the first side, you must know you are not buying a business yet. You are buying a probability. You are buying a catalyst calendar. You are buying the chance that a company crosses the regulatory gate before it runs out of time, money, patience, or credibility. That is not ownership in the usual Buffett sense. That is calculated speculation. Calculated speculation can have a place in a portfolio. But it must be sized like speculation, not loved like a railroad, an insurance company, or a great consumer brand with decades of earnings. The first mechanism is the Johnson & Johnson proof case. Before you believe any small psychedelic company can build a real business, you need to see whether the medical system will pay for a new kind of depression treatment at all. That is where Johnson & Johnson matters. Its Spravato treatment is not a classic psilocybin therapy, but it is a useful commercial proof point. It showed that a clinic-administered psychiatry-related treatment with monitoring requirements could become a meaningful revenue product. That matters because the first question in this field is not whether the science sounds interesting. The first question is whether the system can turn the treatment into reimbursed medical activity. A drug that cannot be paid for is not a business. A drug that cannot be delivered at scale is not a business. A drug that insurers reject, clinics cannot schedule, physicians distrust, or patients cannot access is not a business. Spravato helped answer part of that question. It showed that treatment-resistant depression is not merely a research label. It is a large commercial problem. It showed that doctors and insurers can work with a treatment model that requires supervision. It showed that a drug once doubted by many can reach blockbuster scale if the need is severe enough and the reimbursement system adjusts. But it also teaches a second lesson. Inside Johnson & Johnson, even a multi-billion-dollar drug may not transform the whole company. Johnson & Johnson is enormous. A successful product can help, but it does not turn the entire enterprise into a tenfold stock. The same revenue inside a tiny company would be a completely different matter. That is the arithmetic that attracts investors to small biotech. The small company does not need to become Johnson & Johnson. It only needs one drug to matter enormously relative to its own size. The second mechanism is the small base math. If a company worth roughly $1 billion develops a drug that could one day produce $1 billion in annual revenue, investors notice if that revenue can carry high gross margins, long patent protection, and years of market exclusivity. The valuation can change dramatically. A 5-times sales multiple on $1 billion of revenue is $5 billion. A 10-times sales multiple is $10 billion. That is the math people see when they dream about 4-fold, 8-fold, or 10-fold opportunities. But this math has a trap. It assumes approval, it assumes pricing, it assumes insurance coverage, it assumes clinics can deliver the treatment, it assumes patients accept the model, it assumes no major safety surprise. It assumes no competitor arrives with a cleaner, cheaper, shorter treatment. It assumes the company raises enough capital without crushing shareholders. It assumes patents hold, it assumes management executes, it assumes the market still values the revenue highly when it arrives. That is a long list of assumptions. The reward can be large because the uncertainty is large. If everything were already known, the stock would not be cheap. The third mechanism is the regulatory door signal. The April executive order changed the atmosphere around psychedelic medicine because it signaled that federal policymakers wanted faster serious review for certain breakthrough mental health treatments. The FDA then followed with steps intended to accelerate action around treatments for serious mental illness, including priority review tools and clearer support for rigorous development. This does not mean every psychedelic drug will be approved. This does not mean politics can force good data into existence. This does not mean investors should buy every company with a mushroom on a slide deck. What it means is that the regulatory door is more open than it was. For decades, many of these compounds were frozen by stigma, law, and lack of institutional interest. Now the door is being discussed in the language of veterans, treatment, resistant depression, PTSD, substance use disorders, urgent medical need, and modern clinical development. That is meaningful. A closed door makes even good science nearly impossible to commercialize. An open door does not guarantee success, but it allows the best prepared companies to try. The fourth mechanism is the patient need river, treatment. Resistant depression is not a small problem. Many patients do not respond adequately to existing antidepressant treatments. PTSD, addiction, anxiety disorders, and severe mood disorders create enormous suffering and economic cost. Families know it, doctors know it, employers know it, governments know it, insurers know it, veterans advocates know it. Mental illness is not merely a personal tragedy, it is a social and economic burden. That is why this area keeps attracting money. If a treatment can produce durable improvement in a population that has failed ordinary treatment, the medical value can be enormous. A therapy that reduces hospitalizations, disability, missed work, family breakdown, suicide risk, and years of ineffective medication cycling can justify significant reimbursement. But again, human need is not the same as shareholder return. Many diseases have enormous need and still destroy investors because the science is hard. Trials fail, regulators hesitate, or companies mismanage cash. The patient need river tells you why the field matters. It does not tell you which stock will win. The fifth mechanism is the clinic. Bottleneck problem, psychedelic. Assisted therapy is not like selling a pill bottle at a pharmacy. Many of these treatments require supervised administration, trained clinicians, medical monitoring, preparation, therapy support, and integration. That creates a commercial bottleneck. A pill can be prescribed quickly. A 6-hour supervised session is another matter. If a treatment requires a full day of clinical space, specialized staff, patient monitoring, and strict protocols, then commercial adoption depends not only on efficacy, it depends on capacity. Clinics need rooms, doctors need training, insurers need billing codes, patients need time, employers need leave policies. The whole delivery system must be built. That is why duration matters. A therapy that takes 30 minutes is commercially different from one that takes 6 hours. The shorter session can potentially serve more patients per clinic, per Dalton Y. It may fit better into existing care models, it may reduce cost and operational burden, but a shorter treatment must still prove safety, efficacy, durability, and regulatory acceptability. The clinic bottleneck problem is one reason this sector is not simple. The science can be promising and the delivery model can still limit profits. The sixth mechanism is the Compass catalyst. Compass Pathways is the most advanced name in the classic psychedelic group. Its Comp 360 program uses synthetic psilocybin in treatment, resistant depression. The company has reported positive Phase 3 data and received FDA support for a rolling submission and priority review process that puts Compass close to the regulatory gate compared with many peers. This is why investors focus on it. The catalyst is clear. If Compass completes the submission, receives approval, secures labeling that supports commercial adoption, and launches effectively, the company could become the first classic psychedelic medicine approved through the modern FDA process for this indication. That would be historic. But a historic event is not automatically a profitable event. Approval is one gate. Commercialization is another. The investor must ask what label the FDA grants, how restrictive the risk management requirements are, what monitoring is required, whether insurers reimburse, how quickly treatment centers can scale, how many patients are eligible, how durable the response is, how physicians compare it with Spravato and other treatments. and how much capital the company must raise before meaningful revenue arrives. Compass may be the cleanest catalyst in the group. It is still a catalyst. Stage business, that means position size matters. The seventh mechanism is the AtaiBeckley platform. AtaiBeckley is different. It is less like one pure shot and more like a platform of multiple psychedelic and mental health programs. Through the combination of Atai and Beckley, it gained broader exposure to different compounds, different development paths, and a more diversified pipeline. It also has connections to Compass exposure through prior relationships and licensing arrangements. A diversified platform has advantages. If one program fails, another may survive. If one compound proves difficult to deliver, another may offer a cleaner commercial model. If one indication disappoints, another may become more attractive. A platform can learn across programs and build organizational expertise. But diversification does not remove biotechnology risk. It can also hide it. A company with 5 uncertain programs may look safer than a company with 1 uncertain program. But if none of the programs reaches approval or commercial scale, the platform is still worth far less than investors hoped. Diversification of unapproved assets is not the same as diversification of cash-flowing businesses. The platform bet says, I do not know which exact compound wins, so I want exposure to several. That can be rational. It should still be sized as speculation. The eighth mechanism is the GH Research Duration Bet. GH Research focuses on mebufotenin, also known as 5-MeO-DMT, for difficult, to treat depression and related conditions. The commercial attraction is the potential for a shorter treatment session. If a therapy can deliver rapid and durable effects with a much shorter clinical visit, the business model may be easier to scale. That is the dream: more patients per clinic, less time per treatment, a more efficient delivery model, potential differentiation from longer session treatments. But early promise must become late-stage evidence. A shorter treatment is only valuable if it is safe, effective, durable, tolerated, reimbursed, and approved. Investors must not confuse operational convenience with clinical certainty. In this field, duration is an economic variable, not just a medical detail. The market may eventually reward whichever company offers the best mix of efficacy, safety, durability, patient acceptance, physician confidence, clinic economics, and reimbursement. If GH Research can prove those elements, it may have a powerful position. If it cannot, the elegant commercial model remains a theory. The ninth mechanism is the 3-filter test. Before investing in any company like this, I would apply 3 filters. First, clinical reality. Does the treatment show strong evidence in well-controlled studies? Is the endpoint meaningful? Are the results durable? Are safety issues manageable? Are trial designs acceptable to regulators? Are results replicated or dependent on one fragile study? Second, commercial reality. Can the treatment be delivered at scale? How long does a session take? Who administers it? What does the clinic earn? What does the insurer pay? How many patients can realistically receive it? Does the company have a partner or the capital to build a launch organization? Third, shareholder reality. How much cash does the company have? How much more will it need? Will dilution be large? Are patents strong? How long is exclusivity? What is already priced into the stock? Is management aligned? If approval comes, who captures the economics? Most investors stop after the first filter. They hear positive trial and think the investment case is finished. That is wrong. The drug must work, the system must pay, the shareholder must survive. All 3 are required. The 10th mechanism is the dilution tax. Pre-revenue biotech companies consume cash. Trials are expensive. Regulatory work is expensive. Manufacturing preparation is expensive. Commercial launch is expensive. Education of physicians and payers is expensive. If a company has no meaningful revenue, it must fund those expenses through cash on hand, partnerships, debt, or issuing more shares. Issuing more shares is dilution. Dilution is not always bad. If the company raises money at a high price and uses it to create much more value, shareholders can still win. But dilution at low prices can be brutal. It is like inflation inside the company. The same future pie is divided among more claims. This is why a stock can have a great clinical story and still disappoint investors. If the company must raise too much money before revenue arrives, the original shareholder may own less of the upside than he thought. When studying a small biotech, never ask only what the drug could be worth. Ask how many shares will exist by the time the drug matters. The 11th mechanism is the patent wall. Drug profits depend heavily on protection. If a therapy can be copied quickly, price collapses. Patents, formulation protection, manufacturing know-how, dosing protocols, delivery systems, exclusivity periods, and regulatory barriers all matter. In psychedelics, this can be complicated because the underlying compounds may be old or naturally occurring, while the companies seek protection around formulations, methods, synthetic manufacturing, dosing regimens, or delivery. The investor must be careful. A press release saying, "Patent estate is not the same as an unbreakable moat." Competitors may challenge generics or compounders may appear. Clinics may attempt alternative protocols. Regulators may treat similar therapies differently. A company's protection is only as strong as what can be defended in real markets and courts. The patent wall may be high enough, but you must inspect it before leaning your retirement on it. The 12th mechanism is the adoption staircase. A drug does not go from approval to full adoption overnight. The staircase usually looks like this: approval, label, clarity, reimbursement discussion, medical education effort, early centers of excellence, payer policy, clinician training, patient awareness, referral behavior, repeatable operational workflow, and then broader scaling. Every step can slow the company down. A small biotech investor may expect the market to revalue the company as soon as approval arrives. Sometimes it does, but if the launch is slow, the stock can fall after approval because expectations were too high. This is common in biotech. The FDA gate opens, and then the market realizes the commercial hill is steep. This is why Johnson & Johnson's proof case matters. It showed a path. It did not eliminate the climb. The 13th mechanism is the politics reversal risk. Political support can open doors. It can also shift. One administration may accelerate review. Another may become cautious. One agency head may champion alternative mental health treatments. Another may worry more about safety abuse, commercialization, or public backlash. Bipartisan support helps, especially around veterans and mental health, but policy is never a permanent asset. Investors should appreciate regulatory momentum without depending on politics alone. The strongest biotech investment case rests on data. Politics can help move the file. Only evidence can support the label. The 14th mechanism is the public narrative hazard. Psychedelic medicine carries a cultural burden. Some people hear the word and think of serious supervised medical treatment. Others hear the word and think of recreational drug use, counterculture, abuse risk, or social controversy. This matters because public perception can influence regulators, insurers, physicians, and patients. The companies that win must professionalize the category. That means medical language, clinical rigor, careful protocols, clean safety systems, serious manufacturing, and no carnival atmosphere. The more the industry looks like medicine, the more likely it is to be accepted by payers and doctors. The more it looks like hype, the more resistance it will invite. A psychedelic company is not merely selling a molecule, it is selling legitimacy. The 15th mechanism is the portfolio. Size rule speculation should be small enough that being wrong does not change your life, and large enough that being right matters. For many investors, a category like this might represent 1 to 3% of a portfolio if they choose to participate at all. That is not a universal rule. It depends on wealth, risk tolerance, age, financial goals, and knowledge. But the principle is sound. If a 1% position goes to zero, the household survives. If a 1% position goes up tenfold, the portfolio notices. If a 30% position goes to zero, the investor may be psychologically and financially damaged. That is the correct relationship between uncertainty and sizing. When the uncertainty is high, the size must be humble. The 16th mechanism is the exit discipline. Speculative biotech is not the same as owning Coca-Cola for decades. You may buy it for catalysts, FDA data, regulatory submission, priority review, approval, partnership, reimbursement, launch metrics. Each catalyst changes the risk profile before entering. Know what would make you reduce or exit. If the stock doubles before the data, will you trim? If approval arrives and the stock spikes, will you take profits? If dilution becomes heavier than expected, will you reassess? If safety concerns appear, will you leave? If the launch disappoints, will you stop hoping? If another company offers a better clinic model, will you compare honestly? The biggest mistake in speculation is turning a catalyst trade into a religion. A stock can run up beautifully and then fall 70% when the excitement fades. If you never take profits because you believe the story will change the world may change without rewarding you. The investor's job is not to be loyal to a ticker. The investor's job is to allocate capital rationally. The 17th mechanism is the safer and riskier ladder. Not every way to invest in this mental health shift has the same risk. Johnson & Johnson is the safer proof case, but not the explosive pure play. Its size makes the upside more muted relative to the whole company. Compass may offer the clearest near-term regulatory catalyst, but carries binary and launch risk. AtaiBeckley offers broader pipeline exposure, but more uncertainty across multiple programs. GH Research offers differentiated duration economics, but needs more evidence and development progress. That is the latter. Large diversified pharma, lower company-specific upside, lower single drug dependence. Advanced small biotech, higher catalyst upside, higher binary risk. Platform biotech, broader shots, still pre-revenue uncertainty. Early differentiated biotech, potentially strong upside, high proof burden. An investor must know where on the ladder he is standing. If you stand on the top rung and act as if you are on the bottom, you will fall. The 18th mechanism is the Buffett exception. People may ask why a Buffett-like thinker would even discuss early biotech. The answer is that I would not treat it like a classic long-term compounder. I would treat it as a small bounded speculation around a possible industry transition. My normal preference is for businesses I can understand, with durable earning power, honest management, strong returns on capital, and long runways. Pre-revenue biotech fails many of those tests. It does not have earnings. It may not have a product. It depends on regulators. It consumes capital. It is hard to forecast. But markets sometimes create situations where a small probability of large payoff can be studied, priced, and sized. That is not core investing. It is optionality. Optionality belongs in the corner of a portfolio, not the foundation. The foundation should still be broad ownership, cash discipline, low debt, productive assets, and patience. The 19th mechanism is the actual opportunity. The actual opportunity is not that psychedelic medicine sounds exciting. The opportunity is that the regulatory gate may be opening at the same time the commercial proof case has already appeared, and a large untreated population still needs better options. That combination can create real value if one or more small companies cross from promising science into reimbursed medicine. Regulatory opening, patient need, commercial precedent. Small market capitalizations, catalyst calendars. Those are the ingredients. The risks are equally clear. Clinical failure, FDA hesitation, safety problems, slow clinic adoption, insurance resistance, dilution, weak patent protection, political reversal competition. From larger pharma, investor overexcitement, both sides must be held in the same mind. A person who sees only upside is gambling. A person who sees only risk may miss asymmetric opportunity. A disciplined investor sees the asymmetry and then sizes it so that neither outcome ruins him. The 20th mechanism is the final choice. You can treat this sector like a lottery ticket and probably behave like a lottery buyer. You can ignore it completely and keep your capital in places you understand better, or you can study it with the coldness it deserves. That means no romance about mushrooms, no hatred of medicine, because the word sounds strange. No belief that one executive order makes everything easy. No assumption that Johnson & Johnson's success automatically transfers to every small company. No pretending that a 10 times possibility is the same as a 10 times probability. No all-in behavior, no refusal to take profits if the market gives them, no denial if the facts change. If I were approaching this field, I would begin with a map. The map would show Johnson & Johnson as the proof case, Compass as the leading regulatory catalyst, AtaiBeckley as the diversified platform, GH Research as the shorter session technology bet. Then I would mark the gates each company must pass: evidence, FDA, label, reimbursement, clinic capacity, patents, cash runway, dilution, and launch. Only after that would I think about price. That is the order: map first, price second, position size third, emotion last. The crowd will not do that. The crowd will chase the first spike, sell the first boring period, buy the next headline, and confuse a cultural story with an investment thesis. That is how money moves from impatient people to patient people. The medical need is real. The regulatory door is more open. The commercial precedent is stronger than it was. The upside could be large. The risk is also large. That is exactly why the position must be small. The research must be serious. and the exit rules must be written before the dream begins talking too loudly. In investing, the future does not reward belief by itself. It rewards belief that survives arithmetic. If psychedelic-assisted therapy becomes a real medical category, the companies that cross the gate may create enormous value. If they fail, the stocks may remind people why biotechnology speculation has always been dangerous. That is the deal: no poetry, no fantasy, just a gate, a few horses trying to pass through it, and investors deciding how much capital they can afford to place on a race where the prize is large, because the fall is real.